It's time to move on over to Leading Edge Injury Law. This is a presentation of one of the leading personal injury attorneys in our area, Attorney Paul Samico. Here on this set, Dr. Rajesh Nandan Mehra of Chantilly Family Practice Center questions Attorney Samico on, quote, "Don't know how much you will get, and lawyers are pessimists," unquote. Let's find out a little bit more.
I'm honored and privileged to have with me, as the last few weeks, a very prominent injury attorney, Mr. Paul Samico. Welcome, sir.
Thank you once again.
Good. Well, last week's discussion got a little interesting about insurances and who's going to pay and who's not going to pay.
Indeed.
So,
If the group kept up with that, I offer my applause.
that's right. Well, we've got some pretty smart people out there
I
watching.
absolutely know that. Yes, sir.
But the good part is that we got a lot of interesting emails with more questions. So I'm going to save that perhaps for another segment,
Okay.
because I feel like that this insurance, I call it madness, is so vast that 15-minute doesn't do justice. It's like somebody asking me, Dr. Mehra, tell us about how health insurances work, and it would be a good few hours before I could finish that topic.
Indeed.
So I also want to congratulate you on a book that you're an author of, and I'm going to read the title in fear that I'm going to make a mistake. So it's called 8 Critical Things Your Auto Accident Attorney Won't Tell You, Why and How to Prepare So You Get the Best When You Need It the Most. So sounds like good reading if you've been in an accident.
I appreciate that you brought this up again last week. As you recall, you honored me and you showed your audience this book, and I'll say the same thing. I think it's a good resource to prevent potential problems if and when something bad happens, and certainly if it happens, then it's I think, an even more valuable guide to what to do and how to do and that sort of thing.
Perfect. So today, while I was looking through this book, a couple of things caught my eye. One of the chapters, it says, and I'm reading the title, "Don't Know How Much You'll Get." And I'm assuming that this is about money.
It is.
It is about how much you get. So tell us a little bit about, what's in the chapter, more, how does this work, about how much money, lost wages, lost time, and all of that.
Well, it is. I mean, the evolution of a client's mental process, I'll share with you. I get calls from people who have just been in an accident, or yesterday, or the day before, and there's a ton of questions. How am I going to get to work? I'm injured. I can't go to work. Who's going to pay my medical bills? I don't have a doctor. I don't know where to find a doctor. There's 100 things that people are concerned about. They're very upset, as they should be.
Right.
As they start to get better and the weeks and weeks and weeks goes by and they start to get back into their routine, now their car has been fixed, now they're just going to therapy maybe once or twice a week and they're starting to feel better, they're back to work. What happens now is that their mind starts appropriately to be thinking about, well, you know, they broke something in me, they caused damage, they caused a problem, and they should pay for it. And so the question inevitably comes to me, well, how much am I going to get? And the answer is, from me at least at the beginning, I don't know. And people are disarmed by that. Well, you're the lawyer, you're supposed to know. And so, yes, I'll get to that for you, but
It's a process.
It's a process, and I like to offer an analogy. We all have some measure of knowledge about the sport world, baseball. At the beginning of the game, in the first inning, what's the score going to be at the end? Who knows?
Don't know. Right.
Now, as a lawyer, I'm not taking your case unless I think I'm going to win. So I'm going to predict that we're going to win the case. But I don't know if it's going to be a shutout 9-0, or if it's going to be a close game that goes 17 innings and it's 4-3 at the end.
Excellent analogy.
All right. So there are things that we do know. Relatively speaking, the average auto collision, you're not going to becoming a millionaire here. You're not getting retirement money out of this.
Right.
The law says you have the right to have medical bills paid, lost wages because you couldn't work from the accident reimbursed, and suffering, disruption of life, inconvenience, pain, aggravation, being nervous, being upset. I make a joke sometimes that is not so funny, but when you don't sleep, you're deprived of the need to have that sleep, and you wake up, sometimes you're grouchy, and you look at your husband and your wife and you start answering them with a very short tone, and afterwards you feel bad. So that's not funny, but it happens. Now, are you going to get rich because you barked at your spouse? No, you're not. But that is a factor in the overall picture of the value of a claim. So we look at claims and we look at what were the injuries, what is the total amount of the medical bills that you had incurred because you needed to get well, how much time did you miss from your job, and what was the amount of the money that you missed, and a really undefinable additional compensation for suffering, for inconvenience, for pain, for disruption of your life. It doesn't take much, really, doctor, to figure out, get your calculator, how much the bills were. You make $100 a day, you miss 5 days of work, that's $500. It doesn't take much to figure that out. But what happens is, with the assistance of an experienced personal injury attorney, the attorney can then add an additional amount to that for the suffering component of those three things and get a reasonable resolution or settlement for all three of those things.